Welcome to the SABC News COVID-19 Global Wrap. I am Busisiwe Khatebe. This week, I bring you highlights of news which dominated headlines with regards to the coronavirus pandemic. But before we delve into it, let us have a look at some global stats. The world currently sits at over 26.4 million confirmed cases, with more than 18.6 million recoveries and over 873,000 deaths. South Africa's coronavirus infections stand at over 633,000 confirmed cases, with over 554,000 recoveries and over 14,500 deaths. South Africans have been urged to download the COVID Alert SA app that was launched by the Health Department. The app is aimed at helping the country with tracking the virus and cutting down new infections. The free app is part of a global initiative by tech giants Apple and Google. Privacy experts have assured South Africans that the app will not infringe on their privacy. Meanwhile, Health Minister Dr. Zweli Mkhize says 240 health workers, both in the public and private sector, have died due to COVID-19 related complications. Mkhize was answering questions to the social cluster in the National Assembly on Wednesday night. On to the rest of Africa. The continent has now recorded over 1.2 million confirmed COVID-19 cases, with over 1 million recoveries, and the death toll stands at 30,667. Meanwhile, Zimbabwe will reopen primary and secondary schools in September for students preparing to sit their final exams 6 months after they were closed due to COVID-19, the government said on Tuesday. Health ministers and representatives from African countries have voiced concern over the impact of COVID-19 and stressed that the pandemic was a poignant reminder for countries to bolster health systems. They attended the annual World Health Organization Regional Committee for Africa this week. Meanwhile, the WHO wants to secure an initial 230 million doses of any COVID-19 vaccine for Africa, officials said on Thursday, while emphasizing that any vaccine in development should also be tested on the continent. And in international news, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has asked state public health officials to prepare to distribute a potential vaccine to high-risk groups as soon as late October, documents published by the agency showed. Meanwhile, Canada reached an agreement in principle on Monday with both Novavax Inc. and Johnson & Johnson for millions of doses of the experimental coronavirus vaccines, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said. Canada's two agreements follow separate deals with Pfizer Inc. and Moderna Inc. announced weeks ago and are the latest example of countries rushing to secure access to vaccines. In Latin America, Brazil's COVID-19 death toll appears to be easing for the first time since May, data shows, a sign the country could be descending from a long infection plateau. While confirmed deaths in Colombia due to COVID-19 topped 20,000 on Tuesday as cases surpassed 624,000, the health ministry said in its daily update. This week, Colombia ended its initial quarantine measures after nearly 5 months of national lockdowns. According to the head of the European Union's Public Health Agency, Andrea Ammon, COVID-19 infections in Europe are back to levels seen in March when the outbreak began its peak phase there. But she noted that school reopenings in some European countries did not necessarily pose new risks. The weekly number of positive COVID-19 cases in England in late August was the highest since the end of May. Meanwhile, Britain will urge people this week to get back to their places of work, ramping up Prime Minister Boris Johnson's calls to revive the economy after its hammering during the COVID-19 lockdown. Former Italian Prime Minister Silvio Berlusconi vowed to carry on with political activities ahead of local elections in September after testing positive for COVID-19. In Asia, claims by health authorities in China saying they have discovered traces of the coronavirus on imported frozen food earlier this month has raised the alarm of a potential source of infection. The WHO, however, says there's no evidence that it's possible, but it has kept some consumers away from products that have been linked with the disease.
And we have no examples of where this virus has been transmitted as a foodborne, whereas someone has consumed a food product. The viruses can be killed, like other viruses as well, can be killed if the meat is cooked.
And lastly, India reported another record daily jump of over 83,000 infections, taking its tally to 3.85 million, just 100,000 behind Brazil, the world's second most affected nation. For the latest updates on the coronavirus, visit sabcnews.com.